Remember the Chennai floods? Well, something similar could happen in Mumbai if one doesn't pay enough attention to the state of the Mithi River. The last time this river overflew, it caused massive floods that led to loss of life and property in Mumbai. The government had promised to clean up and desal the river to prevent this from happening again. But 10 years later, the river is in a worse condition than before. Ashwini Priolker has this report.
Black murky water, floating garbage and a lot of waste strewn around. You may think this is a giant sewage drain, but in reality, it is the Mithi River, the biggest and longest river in Mumbai. Years of dumping of effluents and waste has turned this river into a cesspit.
The Mithi River is a very polluted river. There are several sources of pollution. There are point sources of pollution like industries. There are certain industries, industrial belts at Saki Naka around Andheri, Bel Bazaar. And there are tanneries in Dharavi and that area. And of its 18 kilometers, a lot of it is urban interaction. Dense populations, slum populations, unchecked sewage, unchecked effluents.
That's a big problem as the Mithi runs through a number of inhabited areas including the posh high-rises adjoining BKC, Powai and the Mumbai International Airport. Continued pollution of the river can have a variety of negative effects on surrounding property including contaminating groundwater levels, spreading disease and releasing dangerous gases.
The garbage settles on the bed and it basically becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes and ultimately for other diseases like dengue and malaria. So it is a big issue for people. There are a lot of respiratory issues also which people are facing. There are a lot of skin diseases which people are facing, which they have to basically deal with the water every day.
That's not all. The Mithi with its toxic mix of garbage, sewage and effluents also has a tendency to clog very often with silt accumulating and causing the river to overflow. The problem is worsened during the monsoons when there is a constant threat of the river overflowing and flooding nearby areas, including the airport. For instance, last year the city received just about 20 millimeters of rainfall in June and the Mithi was flooded. The government has made several attempts to desal the river and build barriers to prevent flooding, but experts say poor planning has meant that this has done more harm than good.
Governmental agencies which were responsible for this have put the concrete walls on both sides of the river. You see the same walls on the opposite side as well. By directing them with a concrete wall, what one is achieving is really that you're aggregating that water instead of allowing it to go over the banks left and right. You're aggregating and forcing that flood, that water downstream where it has now become too big for the environment to cope and it becomes a flood volume.
This means if the city gets more rainfall than usual, a Chennai flood-like situation is definitely on the cards. And this time, even those living in posh high-rises will be affected, while vital networks like the airport are in danger of getting flooded.
One cannot ignore how vital this river is for the safety of city during heavy rains. When government is ready to spend massive amounts in building statues in the sea and coastal roads, surely it can spend some amount in the rejuvenation of Mithi River, which has been reduced to a sewage line. From Mumbai, Ashwini Priolker, NDTV.